I'm here at the launch site and it's an absolutely fantastic morning. It's cold, it's a very cold early December morning, but it's very still. And I'm here at first light. And yeah, can't wait to get out there. Okay, I'm just approaching my mark, and this is not a matter of just dropping the anchor anywhere. I want to actually try and anchor over a particular mark, or as near as I can get to that mark. So I'm just paddling up to the mark on the GPS now, but what I want to do is just pause a little bit before I release the anchor, just to find out which way that I'm going to drift. And the other thing I have to consider is I'm going to be fishing the ebb tide this morning, but of course this afternoon it's low water at 12:30. This afternoon that will change, and I will swing round, of course, so I have to think about that. I have to think about later when I swing, am I going to be still over or near the mark that I want to fish? It's very difficult to get it exactly right. It's much easier if you just sort of randomly drop in the anchor in a wide area, but this is quite a narrow area and it's not always easy to get it right. So I'm over it now, so we're just going to stop paddling and pause and see which way I'm drifting. Of course the drift is a combination of the tide and any breeze. It's a very light breeze today, so it's probably the tide is going to have a bit more influence today than the wind. Plenty of fish showing down there on the finder, which is good news. Plenty of fish in the water column, and they could be herring or mackerel or whatever, but probably herring or mackerel. And there's a few fish showing down on the bottom as well, and that's likely this time of year to be whiting, I would have thought, or scad. Sometimes if you get shoals of scad you get them down the bottom. So yeah, that's pleasing actually to see plenty of life on the fish finder. Okay, so I more or less know the way that I'm going to drift, so what I will do now is paddle in the opposite direction to that, and then drop the anchor, but again taking into account the fact that I'm going to swing round later as the tide changes. Okay, we'll try that. I mean, if I'm find that I'm way off later when the tide turns, then I'll just up anchor and reposition. That's what I normally do. And down we go. Well, that's the anchor just hit the bottom. So now, of course, I've got to let out some warp, some slack, to make sure that the anchor holds. And where I'm fishing at the moment, it's not that strong a current. Usually only twice the depth. We know that the recommended guideline is 3 times the depth for most areas, but some areas, of course, in a very strong tide, you might have to put out 4 times the depth. But here, it's just a couple of times the depth is usually absolutely fine. And I can judge that, how much I'm looking out, by the GPS. The GPS has got a little scale on it, and from the point I drop the anchor I can see how much I've drifted from that point, and I'll know roughly how much line I've got out. Right, that's it. And then we'll just manoeuvre that to the stern. And then we'll just wait and see how the anchor, how the kayak positions. Now the tackle I'm using for the bait on the bottom, I've got two rods with me. They're both 7'6" boat rods, and they're 12 to 20 pound. And on both of them I've got a 6,500C multiplier, and that's got 30 pound braid. And then I've got a leader to the end of that, which is twice the length of the rod, a 30 pound leader. But the rig I'm using is just is a running ledger, but it's a 2-down rig, and I've got this on both rods. A 2-down rig so we can have two baits, and I'm just trying to maximise my chance of catching fish, particularly for whiting down there. They're usually in quite big shoals. So 2-down rig, and I've got fairly small hooks today. On this rig I've only got size 1/0, and the reason for, and fairly small baits, I'm just going to put a strip of squid on each of the hooks. And the reason for that is, on this rod I want to maximise my chance of catching anything rather than having huge great baits on. I want to keep fairly small baits, and a bit like match fishing really, and it'll pick up whiting, but it'll still pick up codling if there's any down there. It might pick up dabs at this time of year, or gurnard, or scad down on the bottom. On the other rig, which we'll have a look at the moment, I've got I've set it up so I can have one big bait and one small bait, but basically both the same. 2-down running ledger, 2-down rigs, 7'6" boat rods, 12 to 20 pound. So that's the first one. We'll get that down. And because I'm fishing in fairly deep water and it's quite a long way down, rather than just releasing it and letting it run down, what I like to do is actually feather it down slowly. And that just helps to prevent any tangles on the way down. It's really annoying if you hit the bottom and you've have your baits down there for 20 minutes and you pull it up and it's in a hell of a tangle. It's probably tangled on the way down. So feather it down and try and get it down to the bottom with no tangles. On the second rod, exactly the same, running ledger, 2-down rig, and one hooked 1/0 with just a small strip of squid. But on this rig, down the end, I've got a couple of larger hooks on a pennel rig where I can put a larger bait on. I've got the whole mantle of a squid there, and look at that. We got a bite on the rod already, the left-hand rod. I knew that's probably whiting. Yep, that's tapping away. Yep. So one with a small hook, small bait, and just one at the end there with a bigger bait. Might tempt something a little bit bigger, maybe a codling. Well, up comes our first fish of the day, and it didn't take long. This time of year I find it's a great time of year for fishing, if you can get out on the kayak. Such an amalgamation of species. This, to me, I don't know, it feels like it's a whiting, which is what I'm mainly expecting to catch with the bait rods. Yeah, it feels like a whiting. I may be wrong. It is. It's a whiting. The other great thing about this time of year is, I'll just deal with this fish. The other great thing about this time of year is the quality of the whiting that you get. Most times you get just the tiny little pin whiting, which actually can be a real pain, and no doubt I'll have a few today. But then you get these really reasonable whiting, and some of them are much bigger than this. It doesn't last too long. We just get a little spell November, December. You're never quite sure when they're going to come in, but they come in, and then it's great to get a few for the dinner table. Got the head of the calamari squid here, which of course I'm going to use as bait, along with the squid strips. But a little tip for you: when you hook this up, if you hook it through the eyes there, what that does, it will release all that ink, all those black juices out of the squid head. Well, I'm struggling to get 2 rods down at the moment. I still haven't got. I'm just trying to get the other rod down the bottom now. The reason is because on the rod on the left, you can see the rod going already. I've only just baited that up with that whiting and got it back down again, and it's going already. So there's obviously a lot of whiting down there. Just getting the other rod down to the bottom now. I don't know if the camera will pick it up from here, but if you have a look at the fish finder there, it's showing 15 feet. Yeah, I'm fishing it in about 93 feet of water. So that is such a dense shoal of fish that it's shown as the bottom. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go down with these sabikis here, just see if we can find out what it is. It might be herring, it could be just absolutely massive shoal of mackerel. Well, let's see what it is. I bet it's mackerel. Yep, it's mackerel. Absolutely huge shoal of mackerel down there. I've never seen it so dense, to be honest. There you go, and people think that mackerel are a summer species. Well, that might have been the case once, but it's certainly not the case anymore, not down here in Cornwall. We're in December now, and if you wanted to, you could haul in literally hundreds of mackerel. There's so many in the water. Well, it's a case with these whiting down there that as soon as the bait hits the bottom, bang, they're straight on it, and the rod's tapping away there. Oh, we got a trio here. three at once, and the reason for that is because I've got the two down rig, but on this one I've got the pennel rig. So I picked up a whiting on both the pennel hooks and a whiting on the middle hook. Well, at last this feels like something a little bit better. I mean, yeah, it definitely feels a better fish. It might not be whiting, or it could be a decent sized whiting, but it certainly feels a bit more weighty. I've had whiting after whiting of a reasonable size, but only one decent one in the beginning. But this one definitely feels like the sort of whiting you can get at this time of year. It's not banging, it's not nodding like a, could be a dogfish, I suppose. Comes. No, it's a bullhuss. Actually, it's a bullhuss and a whiting by the looks of it. And a nice whiting. Yeah, that's a bullhuss for those of you that have never seen one. It's not a big bullhuss, it's a small. They can grow 5 foot long. But if any of you are not sure how you tell the difference between a bullhuss and a dogfish, the lesser spotted dogfish, this is the greater spotted dogfish, apart from the fact that the spots, but sometimes when they're young, they're very young, you can't actually tell the difference between a bullhuss and a dogfish. But the difference is, if you look at the nasal there opening, with a dogfish there's a little channel that goes right to the top of the mouth, whereas with the bullhuss there isn't. There's no channel that runs from the nasal there to the mouth. So that's how you tell the difference. And we're going to get that back. I mean, I do occasionally eat dogfish. Give it a little bit of time and it should go away lovely, and away it goes. And that's the whiting. That's a nice whiting. That's the sort of whiting I was talking about, the decent ones you can get this time of year. And I was hoping to get one or two of these, and I'm hoping to get one or two more now the tide has turned. Well, with the tide turning and it's flooding in now, the wind direction has changed and it's put me out of position. I'm not happy with my position, so what I'm going to do is move up anchor and then move and drop the anchor back down and get back into a position that I'm happy with. Well, I'm back in position now. I'm happy again now with my position, so I should be alright now until I finish. There's still plenty of whiting around. It's a bit hard to find decent ones, and there's quite a few of these small ones about, but there are one or two good ones, so that's pleasing. Well, there's so many whiting down there ripping up the bait and taking the bait that I've run out of squid. So what I've done, I've cut up one of the mackerel, fresh mackerel that I've caught, and we're going to pop a bit of mackerel on. This actually feels like one of those good whiting. Hopefully. Yeah, it feels a reasonable size. Oh, what? Brilliant. Brilliant, a gurnard. Well, that's a fantastic bonus. The gurnard, lovely fish, absolutely delicious to eat. And now I've caught that, I might actually do a cooking recipe. For those of you that have never eaten gurnard, it really is lovely. Well, they obviously like the fresh mackerel. For those of you interested in fish finders and reading fish finders, I've done a video already how to read a fish finder. But all these whiting I'm catching actually show up down on the bottom. They're a shoal fish, but they tend to show on the bottom or just off the bottom. And that you can see here, that red coming just off the bottom, you've got these sort of very, very dark red, almost brown line of the bottom there, but then just above that on the bottom and just coming up a little bit off the bottom, that red mixed with a bit of yellow, that's going to be the shoals of whiting. And then that patch moving through there, I mean, that could be a little shoal of mackerel or it could be herring. But usually, as I've mentioned before, when you get fish shoaled up together, they don't show as arches, they show as patches, just like that. And patches down on the bottom there, rather than arches. You get individual fish. If there was, let's say, a small shoal of 3 or 4 bass swam by in the water column there, then that probably would show up as arches. But fish shoaled up like that, mackerel, herring, whiting, even fairly dense shoals of cod, will tend to show up as patches. But that's the whiting down on the bottom. Feels like something reasonable. Yeah, it's one of those decent whiting. So that's good. Yeah, that's a lovely whiting. Beautiful. I should enjoy eating that. So I've had a few of the good ones. I think I've had about 3 or 4, can't remember, of the decent sized ones, and then almost a full box full of keepers. I mean, the size limit for whiting is not that big. I mean, this is way over the size limit. The legal size limit, is only 27 centimeters. So that one must be well over, around about 40, over 40. So a beauty. Well, the light's fading fast now, so I'm going to call it a day and head on in. But first, of course, I've got to up anchor. Now, when I pull the anchor in, it's very, very important that I don't pull it in broadside, sideways on, because obviously that could be dangerous, particularly when there's a swell. So what I do is, using the anchor trolley, is manoeuvre it. There's not actually any pressure on the anchor at the moment. Take hold of the reel, and then I've got this cleat here, that cleat there, which I've just hooked the anchor line around, and that is positioned forward of centre, which means that when I start pulling the anchor line in, you see how the kayak's actually being pulled forward, rather than me being pulled this way, sideways on, which of course would be dangerous. So that's why that cleat is there, positioned well forward of centre. Obviously it's not too far forward that I can't reach it, but that's the reason that that's there. Now, if you haven't got one of those, the other option is, this is what I do on the thresher, is actually hook the line through the carabiner, the carbine hook on your anchor trolley, put it through there, and then maneuver that with the anchor trolley to the bow, lock it in place, and then pull the anchor line in from the bow. But the main thing is, of course, is try to avoid pulling the anchor in broadside. Once the anchor is up off the seabed, like my anchor is up off the seabed now, then obviously the kayak will turn broadside, because you're not pulling against the anchor. I'm broadside now, got the breeze coming this way, but the anchor's off the seabed. But it's that point when you're pulling towards the anchor, you're taking up the warp, and you're being pulled towards it, that it's important that the kayak's not being pulled sideways on. Of course, I'm anchored in 100 foot of water here, so it takes a while for me to get the anchor up. And there it is. Back in now, and the light's completely gone, but it turned out to be a really productive day. There was so many whiting out there, so I got a nice load of whiting there, and then I got a 3 whiting of a really good size, so that's really pleasing. Then the fantastic gurnard, which was a real bonus, and I should really enjoy eating that. Gurnard has become one of my favourite fish over the years to eat, and a few nice mackerel as well. So all in all, a long day, but a really fantastic day and productive day. So once again, I hope you found that useful, and many thanks for watching.